This video is brought to you by me. If you like what you see, please consider subscribing and pledging your support on Patreon so I can afford to pay my bills and give my cat a break from powering my computer. Man, sequels are a precarious needle to thread, aren't they? There are high expectations from every direction, and the weight of continuity, and that crippling fear that if you don't pull this off, then you've doomed the franchise forever. That's a lot of weight to put on both a game and a developer, not to mention the dipshit who decided to make a review of the sequel to one of the most beloved horror games ever made ever. But the thing I have in common with Team Silent is that we both did this to ourselves, and it's too late to back out now. Too late for me, I mean. They still made another game after this, and I'm gonna have to do this whole thing again later. Right, so Silent Hill 3. The, at the time, much anticipated sequel to Silent Hill 2, that was actually the sequel to Silent Hill 1 that Silent Hill 2 never was. And yes, that sentence did make sense if you think about it. Funnily, while last time I mentioned that 2 was one of those games I'd had entirely spoiled for me by cultural osmosis, 3 is a game I only just started hearing about in recent years, as more people have been talking about how it was actually much better than the initial fan reception would indicate. My first introduction to the game was actually via Tangomushi's phenomenal video on it, which I'll link to down below. As I mentioned, Silent Hill 3 is actually a direct sequel to the first game, taking place roughly 17 years after Harry Mason killed Dahlia's dreams and was given a replacement baby for his trouble since his original daughter turned into a scary psychic woman about the whole thing. At least I think that's what happened. I still haven't played the first game, but I really don't see how that could be important at all. As a quick reminder, I'll be doing an abridged summary of my playthrough first and then give my serious thoughts and analysis afterwards, so skip to that if you're just here for the proper essay stuff. Now then, without further ado, let's jump right into Silent Hill 3. So you start up the game, and Heather, who is just rocking that puffy vest and knife look, finds herself walking into the Lakeside Amusement Park, a very charming and not at all off-putting location that seems to have already killed the mascot and saved me the trauma of having to fight it, which I greatly appreciate. And after reacquainting myself with the tank controls, which will continue to fuck me throughout my entire playthrough, I walk through a door and am immediately attacked by a wild dog. You know, somehow I don't feel like this place was made for my amusement specifically. Also, just a heads up for the people who haven't seen my previous video, which you should, it's good. I won't be subtracting points for the tank controls since my own unfamiliarity with them is the reason they give me so much trouble. But if you're ever wondering why I keep nearly flinging myself into bottomless pits in my attempt to escape the game's monsters, it's because this is literally my second time playing with them and I panic. Anyway, I make the first of this game's many additions to doesthedogdie.com and then get punched in the face by its owner before heading to the roller coaster where a stabby drone thing is making the worst noise in the goddamn world. And forces me onto the tracks where less terrible but still terrifying noises fill the air, and I guess Heather is so distracted by the horrifying slurping, she doesn't notice the coaster coming until it's too late and getting rendered two-dimensional. Don't worry though, this is just one of those precognitive tutorial type dreams, and she's actually in a cafe in a mall somewhere, as American teenagers in the early 2000s were wont to do. God, remember when malls weren't an endangered species? Me neither. Anyway, Heather heads off to make a call home to her dad that's honestly quite cute, which is rudely interrupted by this gumshoe-looking motherfucker who sounds like he smokes sandpaper cigarettes, who wants to talk to her about her birth and doesn't take fuck off for an answer, which means it's time to hide in the bathroom until he gets bored and wanders off. But then I get bored too and wander out the window instead, which eventually leads back into the mall and away from Detective Dickwad and thus toward the entire rest of the game. Finally, ADHD works for me. Also, it appears that this mall is getting a head start on extinction because all the people are gone and the floors are fucking filthy and all the doors are locked except for this one raised one and fuck me, I'm in a horror game. Well, being the genre-savvy girl she is, Heather grabs the first gun she finds on the floor just in time to defend herself from the special guest of my nightmares for the next 2 weeks. It's called a closer, and since I know these games are big on symbolism, my guess is it represents the innate human fear of big arms. Thankfully, Heather kills it, so I don't have to confront that particular darkness today, and then we run around the abandoned mall for 15 minutes while I try to figure out where to fucking go. Eventually I figure out you need to raid the bakery, to get the tongs, to get the key, into the bookstore, to find a code to open a door, and eventually move the plot forward, and find our next new character who I'm sure will be very helpful.
Wait, what's going on? Where is everybody? Those weird monsters?
They have come to witness the beginning. The rebirth of paradise, despoiled by mankind.
Okay, you know what? That one's on me. I was a fool to expect anyone to make any sense this early in the game.
I am Claudia.
So what?
Okay, you know what? I like Heather. We're vibing, me and Heather. Sadly, Claudia's cryptic bullshit proves too much and Heather nearly passes out from the nonsense overload, allowing the insane nun with no eyebrows to wander off to who the fuck knows, where I'm sure she won't cause any trouble for anyone.
Foreshadowing is a literary device,
And once Heather recovers, we can move on to the elevator to continue this game what we're playing. Also nice, free radio, and it comes with its own jump scare. Hi Veltiel! Don't mind me, I'll just be over here having a panic attack. Also, I found a map, so that'll be helpful. At least in theory, I've never actually met a mall layout I could reliably navigate. So what you're not seeing in this video is the 48 minutes of footage I had to cut out where I was just checking my fucking map when a bunch of two-headed dogs were using me as a chew toy. The dogs here being a metaphor for the anxiety of being rushed to make decisions. Anyway, after finding a save room and some supplies, I eventually stumbled my way into more bathrooms, which is good in theory, but well, I think someone died in this one? And I'm not super keen on dealing with fucking Hanako-san on top of everything else, so I'll be on my way. So we leave the actual nightmare of a bathroom and head to the clothing store where I find a bulletproof vest and a wire coat hanger, the latter of which is actually more useful to me at this point in the game since it gets me up to the second floor, and then I have the pleasure of actually being on the second floor, where I'll spend the next 20 minutes getting turned around as I sprint away from terrifying noises and try to collect all the little doodads this game requires for progression. In brighter news though, I also located my beloved lead pipe, which Heather will continue to hold against her chest like a teddy bear until I find something that can match the comfort its mighty heft brings. Also, and this is really funny, at one point I ran up an escalator only to find a closer at the top that I thought I could just sort of scooch past, though a single punch disabused me of that notion real fucking quick. But then I forgot how the tank controls worked and I accidentally ended up sprinting right back to it and getting decked again before I could run back down again and try the other escalator. And you know what? Please feel free to laugh at me because I was certainly laughing at myself. Anyway, I get past the closer and shove a fancy rock I found in a walnut into a pretentious door, and it leads me to the single most conspicuous ladder in the history of video games, which tells me there's a fucking boss right down those cursed rungs, and I'd better gird my skirted loins for the battle ahead. The ladder breaks itself after I get to the bottom, perhaps from the shame of being so fucking obvious, and a rumbling from nearby announces the arrival of... a broken condom with teeth. That feels maybe a little on the nose given the themes of the game, but who am I to judge? It can't do much more than crawl about and impotently shake the ground a little, so I shoot in the face 100 times and Heather returns to the real world again, with its nice clean floors and conspicuous lack of phallic monsters. It does have Douglas though, who also has no idea what happened and is looking for answers, which I regret to inform him I do not have, and then we piss off back home.
What should I do?
Hell if I know.
I fucking love Heather. Nothing much interesting happens in the subway, unless you count getting lost and attacked by fucking dogs again, until I find the right train. Okay, no, that's not true. I do almost shit myself after a door turns out to be locked and Heather has to scramble back to the platform as those fucking dogs try to maul her and the train is coming in. Oh god, please, no, not like this, no! Almost lost my cool there. Of course, to add insult to barely missed injury, I can't actually get on the train here. I have to run back up and around to get to the proper platform because the urban planning department is run by fucking sadists. You're pushing my patience, Konami. Also, the train is full of enemies, and it's also just fucking dropping the cars after you pass through them. Though to what end, I really couldn't tell you for sure. It's probably just to fuck with Heather, for being honest, since that seems to be the sole motivating factor for everyone and everything we meet. Anyway, we step off the train and into what the game technically calls the underpass, but is honestly more of a collection of maintenance tunnels that also lead into the sewer. I'm just gonna save us all some time and skip over all these samey, boring hallways filled with ambulatory sperm creatures, so we can get to the only interesting things in this section. First thing, Heather finds a fucking maul. Like, the game just gives you a medieval spiky smashing stick and you can whack things with it. It's pretty funny, not gonna lie. Unfortunately, Heather is a waifish little thing with noodle arms and swinging it requires a wind-up with permission signed in triplicate, so I'll just stick to my beloved lead pipe if it's all the same to you. Thing 2, you pick up an empty wine bottle and then fill it with kerosene so you can jumpstart the engine for a pump so you can move forward without Heather soaking her boots for the entire rest of the game. This isn't actually that interesting, but it's also the closest thing to a puzzle the underpass has, so I'm including it. Thing the 3rd, while exploring an office space, Heather discovers a memo written by a former worker about a monster in the water ahead that killed 2 of his friends and how he's going to try to kill it in revenge, but will likely fail because guns and knives don't really work underwater. And it's all very macho and heroic, and I'm sure he fought valiantly, but he really needn't have bothered, because this is how Heather, who has a functioning brain, handles the problem. I cannot stress enough how much I love this girl, oh my fucking god. By the way, the next area we go through is an active construction site, which, if I may set the goofs aside for a moment, is one of the scariest parts in the entire game. There aren't monsters or even any real dangers here, and it's barely 10 minutes long, but none of that matters because you are a teenage girl wandering alone through an abandoned building that's being torn down in the most realistically stressful area in any horror game. So hats off to you, Team Silent. It's nice to see your mastery over liminal horror has only improved. Anyway, we eventually find an open window and jump through it, which brings us to the Hilltop Center office building, which is where the game really starts to get fucky. This place is full of monsters, maybe too many monsters actually, because Heather is constantly being swarmed by groups of 2 or 3 and they won't stop screaming at me, and you have to go up and down and all around to find the only door in each hallway that isn't locked, and the fucking dogs are back, and also this mannequin fucking jump scares me and I don't like this place! Though I will say I appreciate Heather a lot in this area, as her attitude towards everything really helps to balance out the tension as she comments on the dumb things she finds in each room, and also you find a fucking katana in one of them. And I'm sorry, Leadpipe, my baby, my beloved, but you've been replaced because how can I not have Heather running around with a weeb sword killing demons in her early 2000s puffy vest? I have to, it's the law somewhere, I think. Things are overall fairly manageable until you locate the interior design store that I don't believe has ever sold anything because it is, to use the technical term, fucking grody. And apparently cursed because the moment Heather touches the floor model it starts bleeding and gives the entire building herpes, transforming it into the Nightmare Hilltop Center office building. You can tell it's the Nightmare version because everything is covered in fucking mildew and grime, which is, to be fair, an absolute nightmare for a lot of people. Also there's this. Yeah, I'm just gonna pretend I didn't see that if it's all the same to you. Also, okay, you know what? I take it back. This place absolutely is a nightmare. Oh, and we're introduced to a new enemy, the Slurper. It's super annoying, crawls along the ground, and obviously represents gross men who think modern anime need more panty shots, and they keep knocking me down and running their disgusting tongues all over me, and I don't fucking like them! Oh, and speaking of gross men...
Heather. That's what you're called now, isn't it?
And who are you?
The name's Vincent. Don't forget it, okay?
Okay, you know what, dibs? I call dibs on killing this man.
So Harry didn't tell you anything. I guess he hid the truth to keep you on his side, eh? That figures. He's a pretty sneaky guy.
Don't talk about my dad like that!
See, Heather agrees. This guy dies by my hand. Anyway, we walk away from creepo McStranger danger here and grab some chemicals and first aid kits from a storage closet and then make a panicked sprint to the elevator to avoid being molested by more fucking slurpers on our way to the exit.
Ah, son of a whore!
Yeah, meet the glutton, everyone. an actually unkillable monster blocking the only way out of this godforsaken building that can only be removed by reading the fairy tale on the ground in front of it. The suspiciously unfinished fairy tale. Ah, damn it. This is another puzzle, isn't it? Whatever, time for another round of collect the objects to progress the story. The game that Team Silent can't seem to get enough of. To make a long story short, you burn a painting with some liver and then buy a key from a vending machine and then walk into the worst life insurance office I've ever seen to finally find the ending to this fucking book.
Tu fui ego eris. Weird writing. What was that?
This was a shit story, by the way. So shit, in fact, that the glutton fucking evaporates and we can finally leave and walk 2 minutes down the street to get back home. Why in the fuck does Heather ever go to that mall if it takes half a fucking odyssey to get back each time? Is nothing closer? Like at all? Fuck me, the early 2000s were a wild time. Right, so what follows is the hardest to watch moment in the entire game, as Heather walks inside and finds that her father was brutally murdered, breaking down in wailing sobs before noticing the trail of blood that leads outside and up onto the roof, where Claudia basically just rage baits Heather with cryptic bullshit before throwing a boss fight at her. The missionary, which represents fuck you, is the hardest boss in the game for me, as it runs absolute circles around me and can deflect my shotgun blasts, which burns through most of my ammo, and Silent Hill controls are as clunky and frustrating as always, but well, I mean, I can't deny I feel Heather's rage here. So yeah, let's go shithead, square the fuck up. Okay, yeah, I needed that. And now that the boss is dead, we're free to move on to the next cutscene where Douglas returns, and after much emotion is had, Heather moves her dad, gathers her things, and they both drive to Silent Hill to get some well-deserved revenge. There's actually a lot of good exposition here, but I'll talk about that later because I have to go find Claudia's dad Leonard at the hospital, which means it's time to step back out onto those old familiar streets and... Alright, shit. Okay, so for those who don't know, a little while ago, my hard drive went and committed die on me, and I lost 2 weeks and a whole bunch of files, most of which we were able to recover, but the footage of Brookhaven Hospital was unfortunately one of the victims of that fucking nightmare. Now, there are a couple of ways I could go about handling this. I could restart the game and re-record the footage, or I could find a walkthrough on YouTube and use the footage from that, or I could just take the lazy route, say fuck it, and not bother at all. However, I'm not going to do any of those things. I've decided to do something much stupider. So I walk into the hospital, and after grabbing a map and having a pipe off with one of Silent Hill's trademark annoying nurse enemies, I step into the visiting room and am greeted with a truly lovely note from some incel prick named Stanley, who professes his love for Heather and says he wants to give her his prized doll. A doll Heather very understandably says, "No thanks bro" to, and leaves behind. A couple more nurses shuffle forward to try their hands at Heather's pipe fighting champion title, but I didn't earn it by chance, and also Heather has a fucking gun, so she gets to keep her crown another day. Also, I found a room with a bunch of random bullshit glued to the wall, including the key I need, alongside another note from Stanley telling me he's been putting things there to fuck with the nurses. What a charmer. It's truly a mystery that he's still single. Since I'm genre savvy enough to know a puzzle when I see one, I run off to find whatever the hell melts what I hope is rubber cement, along the way discovering a perfume bottle that I'll never use, nail polish remover that will actually be helpful, and also an instant camera that some nutjob hid in a combination lock suitcase for reasons only known to Mr. Sanest Man on the planet. Also, the nurses won't leave me alone, probably because I forgot my visitor's pass. Silly writing, that's not loud. The key was for the stairwell, by the way, which led down to one of the most disturbing rooms in the goddamn game that just has a wheelchair on its side with one wheel squeakily spinning and a trail of blood leading away from it, terminating at an abandoned submachine gun. Something happened here. I'm hoping it was a miracle, but if we're honest, it probably wasn't. Also, Stanley keeps leaving me notes with that fuck-ass doll of his next to every single one. Bro, take the hint she's not into you! Until I find one that says it'll be his last because Leonard is going to kill him. Thank fucking god for that. I don't think I could handle much more of that bullshit. Oh yeah, and while I was exploring and avoiding letters from my stalker and piping nurses, one of them rocked up with a fucking revolver and shot my ass, which threw me for a bit of a loop. My first thought when that occurred was, oh shit, is that bitch packing heat? Which was almost immediately superseded by, Hang on, did she just shoot me? You can't have a monster shoot me. That's against the rules. You broke the rules. 1,000 Years Dungeon! God, these bitches have no respect for decorum. It's okay though, I had the bigger gun. Oh yeah, I also got a phone call. Remember Leonard, that guy we're here to find? Well, he calls Heather on a landline somehow, and assuming he's talking to Claudia, he starts screaming about how disappointed he is in her, and also wondering where he went wrong, the answer to that being every step of the process. And goes on like that before Heather finally manages to correct him, and he immediately changes his tune and asks for help, saying he's beyond a door on the second floor that doesn't actually exist until after this call. I'd question that, but I'm honestly too tired to care at this point. Let's just go find Daddy Dearest. So we pass through the door and... okay, this isn't even a fucking hospital anymore. I don't know what you'd call this, but Brookhaven it certainly ain't. Also, hi Veltiel, hi Lisa. Glad at least one of you is having fun. Whatever, let's just move on and... You know, I've never actually had a migraine in my life, but I imagine this is what it's like. I wasn't aware a building could get cancer, but this is hardly the first time Silent Hill has surprised me. I do eventually get away from the physical manifestation of the concept of eye strain, but it leads me into the mirror room, which is... fucking gross. Is anything in this hospital capable of making sense?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear. Oh, I forgot your name.
Who are you?
Oh, okay, thanks. Happy birthday, dear. Who are you? Happy birthday to you. Happy 31st birthday.
Is this Leonard?
That's the murderer's name, not my name. I'm not your beloved Stanley either. He's underground now. His new name is Number 7.
I'll take that as a no. But sadly it is the closest thing to directions I've gotten in 2 hours, so I guess I'll go find the morgue. But first I've got to stop and bag up some of this delicious blood in case I get thirsty later. Freshly squeezed, just like Mom used to make. Now where is that? Ah, here it is. And I think this is Stanley. What a shame. Whatever, I got the key I need, so don't bother getting up, I'll show myself out. Also, what the hell is going on in here, exactly? Well, the book says blood ritual, so I'm assuming it summons a demon? Ah, worse, it summons another fucking ladder. Have I not suffered enough yet? Whatever, I guess you can't fight fate. Now let's go see if Leonard can help.
Death to all who turn their backs on God!
You know what, I honestly don't know what I expected at this point. And I also have no idea why he's a lizard man. Whatever, you shoot him a bunch and he dies from getting shit water in his wounds or something, and then we're returned to the real world with the seal we were looking for that I forgot to mention earlier, so now we can fuck off back to Jack's Inn and move on with our lives. Oh, when Vincent bullies Claudia for having daddy issues or something. Though she leaves just before we arrive and Vincent gives us directions in the most annoying fucking way possible.
Go northwest on Nathan Avenue. It's a bit far, but closer than heaven.
Team Silent are cowards for not letting me shoot him right here. Whatever, we're off to the amusement park. This is still the longest fucking run in the goddamn world, by the way. My emulator lets me speed up the game and it still takes 5 fucking minutes to get there. I swear they're just taking the piss with this one. You know, I'm getting the weirdest sense of deja vu as I walk into this grimy ass entrance. Though Heather clutching her stomach is new. Yeah, I'm sure it's nothing. Ooh, gift shop. Did these motherfuckers try to jump scare me in the hopes I'd drop my money? Well, joke's on them. I don't have any. I will use the bathroom, save point though, since they literally cannot stop me. Otherwise, good day, sir and/or madam. Trust I will not be patronizing your paltry wares ever again. So I leave the gift shop and run past the dogs and the stabby drones I can't remember the name of as I approach the roller coaster, and I get a feeling, I suppose? Perhaps a fading recollection from a barely remembered dream. Perhaps mere instinct. But I've gotta get in that fucking booth or I will die. Also, I have this key, so let's just flip at that switch and make sure things are all good in the tracks. You know, I'm a little surprised nobody gets tied to these. Oh, you motherfuckers!
You lied to me about Heather, lady. I don't like being used.
Lie? What lie?
That Heather was kidnapped from you.
Oh my god, I can't believe I survived that. Also, ever get the feeling you missed something important?
You're going to kill me? Is it really so easy for you?
I've done it before.
Then I truly do pity you.
Well, if it's not happening to me, then it can't be that important. Oh look, a haunted house. Welcome, dear viewers, to the Borley Haunted Mansion. A fun time to be had by all, assuming you enjoyed jump scares and a narrator who will not stop fucking with you.
I'm so sorry. This place is just falling apart. The mechanism is broken, you see. It wasn't supposed to stop there, I assure you.
Fuck you, nerd man. I hope they screwed you on the royalties.
That was supposed to be the exit, but it seems that no one wants you to leave.
Oh god, I pissed him off! No, 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 no! Damn it! Now I have to listen to him all over again! Wait, hang on, I'm editing this. Can't I just skip to... Haha! What now, bitches? Oh, you cheating piece of... So I escape the haunted house and run past a bunch of bullshit that isn't fun to talk about until I find a locked gate that's determined to not let me through. But unfortunately for it, I've stopped taking so kindly to roadblocks and have started applying my knowledge of physics and engineering to more problems. The word of the day, children, is torque. Ha, teach you to be a locked door. Oh hey Douglas, you're looking a little jacked up. And this is quite the emotional moment we've got here, and I can't be funny about it, so you just get some rest and I'll be on my...
What are you doing?
A2, Judas. Fun fact, if you slow this scene down, you can pinpoint the exact moment Heather's heart shatters into a million pieces. Great job, Detective Dickhead. You know what? It's been stressful. I don't need these negative emotions right now. So let's just head to the merry-go-round, which is unfortunately distinctly less merry than I was hoping for. Why in the fuck are they on meat hooks? Oh, and for more fun, if you don't stop it from spinning, then you die, which is actually easy because you just have to stab them all. Though that does lead right into the next boss fight against Heather's evil twin from the scummy mirror. Well, that's random. Memory of Alessa? I don't have any of those, sorry. Didn't play the first game, remember? It's a 4-phase fight where she starts off with a knife and eventually pulls out some guns, but curiously she barely actually fires them and I'm pretty free to beat her to death with the flat of my katana until she stays down for realsies. Guess she learned how to fight from Eddie. Oh well, off to church. You step into the chapel and Claudia seems legitimately surprised to see you. Though not as surprised as she is when Heather starts channeling Alessa and tells her she's a fucking moron for buying into the cult's bullshit. Though her contractions get in the way of actually shooting the bitch and being done with it. Claudia gloats out of the room and I'm left to find my way through the game's final area. The first thing I do is grab the Eye of Night card, which isn't even a real tarot card, though it totally should be. And then after a quick check-in with the save point, I notice the paintings around the room and get curious, finding that they tell the tale of how once upon a time life sucked absolute ass for everyone always until God was born and made things better until she got tired and then died about it. But don't worry, because if all the little boys and girls are good and go to church and remember their blood sacrifices, then God will be reborn again one day, and then presumably life will be not shit again. I mean, it's no magic carpenter who was his own dad and cursed a fig tree, but I guess it'll do. Curiosity satisfied, I step into the next room and find a map drawn in crayon that will actually fill itself out as you explore, which is neat. And also there's a confessional where you can pretend to be a priest and listen to people's sins, which sounds like a fun time. Alright my child, what sin burdens you today? I killed the woman who murdered my child and hope only to be able to weather the flames of torment so I may see her in the afterlife but one time before my soul is rent asunder for my unforgivable act of revenge. Hello? I can't fucking do this, oh my god! So I run away from that hot mess and work through my feelings by tasing an insane cancer and kicking it to death. No, I don't want to talk about it! I also find a cassette tape and then head to the library, wherein these mysterious creatures known as books are said to reside. And here's the Moon Tarot card.
Hiya, Heather.
God, no, not you right now!
You make me sound like some kind of unwanted pest.
Oh my god, he can read the room, what a fucking miracle! Whatever, he confesses that he's been using Heather the whole time, fucking shocker, before jumping into his weird little tirade.
Are you talking about the monsters?
Monsters? They look like monsters to you?
Oh no.
I need you to understand how not dramatic I'm being when I say I fucking hate this man. I'm gonna shove the seal of Metaton so far up your ass, you creepy, pompous, self-serving shitlord. Now give me that book and get the fuck out before I make good on my dibs. Fucking hate Vincent. Anyway, from there I run around the gross back rooms of the church, find a room dedicated to Alessa's hospital bed, which is fucking creepy, another room dedicated to how she was bullied in school, which is also fucking creepy, find Claudia's room with a birthday card from Alessa, which is just fucking sad, and then run past the quickly transforming hallways full of headache-inducing monsters to finally put all the tarot cards to use and open up the door to the final boss. Can nobody just use a fucking padlock in this cult, or would that just not show enough faith? Anyway, I run through one last ugly-ass hallway and come across Vincent and Claudia airing out their dirty laundry in front of God and everybody until they notice me come in and Vincent, apparently still operating under the delusion that I'm on his side, tells Heather to kill Claudia and...
You go to hell!
No! Claudia, you kill-stealing bitch, I call dibs! Okay, fuck it. You know what? Just for that, I'ma crush your daddy issues-driven hopes and dreams. I'm burning this place down with your god in it. Ah, god damn it.
Judgment Day! Alessa?
Shut your stinking mouth, bitch!
Fuck yeah, Heather, let's get some revenge. Time to abort God. Ew, God's disgusting. Oh well, time to die.
Stop! God is...
Claudia!
Ew.
Alessa, you cannot kill God. I will birth God.
That's disconcerting. Well, that was a lot, and that is considerably more yonic than I was prepared for. Oh well, time for a late-term abortion. I'm coming for you, God.
be dead. I was gonna kill you. This is God?
Huh. Well, Heather, I'm sorry you couldn't get your revenge against Claudia since she kind of murked herself there. But how about we lift your spirits with a nice rousing bit of deicide? Come on, it's great stress relief. Let's do the final boss. In all honesty, God isn't a super challenging boss fight. I mean, she hits like a runaway ice cream truck and can take a beating like one too, but as long as you stay outside the reach of her swipes and watch out for the fire, she's actually pretty manageable. And unlike Maria, I don't have any conflicting feelings about putting this bitch back in whatever the deific equivalent to the grave is. So square the fuck up, thought. It's time for some applied atheism. Hit the music. Well, that was fun. Now that it's over, Heather can finally have a nice healthy cry over her dad dying. And with that out of the way, all that's left to do is go give Douglas a heart attack and announce that she's going by Cheryl from now on, which I believe makes her the only Silent Hill protagonist with a dead name. And that is Silent Hill 3. Okay, so does Silent Hill 3 hold up? Yeah, no contest. It holds up phenomenally well. I would actually argue that the themes of the game have only grown more relevant as the subject matter has become more publicly acknowledged and people have grown more comfortable talking about it in frank terms. I'd even argue that 3 is more relevant to the current cultural zeitgeist than 2 possibly could be. Now, that isn't to say that 3 is a better game than 2. I would actually say they're right about equal, but their strengths lie in different areas. I feel comparison between the two is kind of unavoidable, not just because they're the 2 most popular games in the original tetralogy, but also because of how fandom discourse has run its course in the years since the 2 games' releases. From what I've gathered, which isn't a lot since I barely even dipped my toe into the fandom discourse surrounding the series, fans seem to think this game is much shallower than Silent Hill 2, and that it's just a return to the generic cult horror of the first game after the second elevated the medium with the story of James Sunderland. And I honestly don't agree with that notion, because I found 3 to be the far more powerful story overall, and I also ended up enjoying my time with it way more. Speaking on a purely technical level, a lot of my criticism from the video on 2 still applies here. Combat's still slow and clunky, exploration can be a fucking pain, but it's all by design and never actually gets in the way, so that's fine. I'm not looking to repeat the same points over and over here, though I did appreciate that the puzzles were less annoyingly designed this time around, not a fucking trapdoor handle equivalent to be found. However, I will say that I found this game quite a bit more challenging, largely due to faster enemies. I made it through a lot of 2 without serious trouble and ended it with an inventory that looked like a prepper's wet dream, but I was absolutely burning through health items and ammo in 3 before I was even a quarter through the game. And a lot of that was due to the fact that the dogs, the slurpers, would swarm me and the closers kept taking up all the space with their big ass arms, and then I'd get decked and lie on the floor for 10 seconds while Heather waits for her brain to stop rattling. Though on the subject of the monsters, I was honestly kind of disappointed that this game lacked the thematic cohesion and creature design that 2 had. The majority of James's monsters harken back to Mary in some way, which is actually why I believe his combat was so much easier. Go watch my video on the second game for my thoughts on that. But in 3, well, some of them relate to Orlessa, or the first game in some way, I guess, and I will be talking about one of them in particular in just a little bit, but most are just kind of generically creepy, which is a real shame because I would have loved to see more things pulled from Heather herself, because she's the reason I love this game so fucking much. Yeah, in contrast to my absolute loathing of James as a person, but my appreciation for him as a character, I love everything about Heather Mason. I especially like that, while James was a fucking personality black hole who had literally nothing to him but his search for his dead wife, Heather is absolutely bursting with personality, to the point that you get snippets of it when interacting with nearly anything. Heather is actually one of my favourite game protagonists of all time, and certainly my favourite in the horror genre. You obviously get bits of her personality in her rare interactions with the other characters, but you also get it in flavour text all over the place. If you check the mirror in the starting bathroom, she talks about how they make her uncomfortable. If you check the ashtray, she says, "No more smoking for me, I've quit for good." And if you try to make her unclog a toilet with her hand, she has this to say.
Oh, forget it. This is way too gross. Who would even think of doing something so disgusting?
There's 1,000 little moments like this that serve to display her depths to the player, and I love that. Also, I love how some of the music feels so connected to her. While this game had some of the best and most horrifying background sounds I've ever heard, which continues the series tradition of the atmosphere absolutely making the horror work, as well as music that is truly beautiful at times, my favourites are the tracks like End a Small Sanctuary, You're Not Here and I Want Love. Not only are they tracks that I've listened to on repeat since I started working on this, but they feel like they belong on Heather's playlist. Heather is such a refreshing take on a female horror lead, largely because she's not just some simpering waif making soft noises while monsters approach. Sure, she's scared of them at first, but who wouldn't be? Who among us wouldn't react with a "oh shit" or "the fuck is that" when confronted with the monsters of this game?
What the hell is this thing?
I really appreciate how real Heather feels. Teenagers are often written as sort of ambiguously angsty and sarcastic for no reason because the writers are in their 50s and don't respect young people, but Heather is honestly really well done. And that's especially impressive considering she's an American teenage girl being written by a middle-aged Japanese man. She's funny and sarcastic, and like I said, you get snippets of her inner world all throughout the game. You can tell a lot about her relationship to her dad by how she talks to him on the phone, or how she responds to Vincent calling him sneaky.
Dad, it's me. Yeah. Sorry I didn't call sooner. Yeah, I guess I was. Anyway, I'm coming home now. Oh, I didn't get that thing you asked me to. Okay. Okay, I will. I love you too, Dad.
So Harry didn't tell you anything. I guess he hid the truth to keep you on his side. That figures. He's a pretty sneaky guy.
Don't talk about my dad like that!
I also love just how done she is with everything. She quickly begins to grow somewhat accustomed to the way the other world works, and she absolutely refuses to indulge Claudia or Vincent when they get on their bullshit, which I just found absolutely delightful.
I am Claudia.
So what?
She actually brought back pleasant memories for me of Hazel Flood, the protagonist from South of Midnight, who's also a teenage girl thrust into supernatural bullshit, and she also has a similarly realistic and relatable reaction to things as they keep happening.
Hey, Hazel.
Who's there?
You up here.
Where?
My salvation.
A talking fish. Nope. Ain't no way.
These two would be great friends, maybe even girlfriends. And yes, I did give myself a brand new crack ship during the writing of the script. If anyone draws cute fan art of these two, I will love you forever. Also, I like Heather's design. She looks like a real teenager, which is a low bar not many people seem to be able to clear. She's very clearly still figuring out her style, she's got freckles and imperfections, and fitting her more tomboyish personality, she doesn't wear makeup so you can see the bags under her eyes from a lack of sleep that a lot of teenagers suffer from. She looks like a real person, informed by her personality. It's good character design. Anyway, it's all of this that makes Heather one of the most enjoyable and likable protagonists in any game I've ever played, which is also what makes the loss of her father hit me especially hard. Remember, I still haven't played the first game, so I have no attachment to Harry outside of what he means to Heather. I imagine more of this game, and especially his death, would have hit me harder if I had, but I really didn't end up needing that because to me, all that mattered was that Heather had lost her father, and that she was suffering. Harry's death was important to Heather, so it was important to me too, and it's also part of why I found the themes of the game so powerful, because the exploration of things like objectification, bodily autonomy, trauma and love are all so much more powerful when they happen to a character who feels real. Silent Hill 3 is an absolute masterpiece of horror, but the true impact isn't found in the monsters or the cult or even really the town itself. The true horror of Silent Hill 3 is found in how it explores femininity and the very real threats that women and femme-presenting people face every day. It often exaggerates them, sure. Nobody IRL is going to talk to a creepy nun and then find themselves suddenly the victim of a demonic immaculate conception, but they're still very real. I mean, there's also more universal themes at play here, like grief, family, and love, but I can't cover every single thing in this game in a reasonable time frame, so let's just talk about them as they come, yeah? Body horror seems like a good place to start, because even setting aside the monsters with their bloated, barely human forms that evoke images of tumorous growth, what's happening inside of Heather is absolutely horrifying. From the moment she meets Claudia, Heather's fate is set in stone as the dormant god within her starts to awaken and grow inside her in the form of a nightmarish fetus that she never had any say in. Heather is a child forced to house an unborn god within her, and pregnancy elicits extreme changes upon the body that can have long-lasting consequences even after giving birth. And if you actually want a child, those are things you willingly accept. But Heather is 17 years old. She's barely old enough to take care of herself, and this is the furthest from what she would ever want. The game is actually chock full of imagery surrounding pregnancy and female reproduction and sexuality, such as the hole Claudia falls into that resembles a vagina, or the bloody toilet that might bring menstruation to mind. But all of this is made worse by the fact that Heather is dealing with a forced pregnancy that will end in her death if nothing is done about it, sacrificing her life as the role of the Mother of God is forced upon her. Speaking of, identity is another interesting theme of the game. As I said earlier, Heather is at the age where she's still figuring out her place in the world and who she is, though if we're being honest, that never really ends for anyone. But Heather is right on the cusp of adulthood when all this happens, and she finds herself being pulled or even forced in different directions based on the desires of the adults around her, and even the supernatural forces influencing the town. Heather is the reincarnation of Alessa, and as the story continues, her memories of her past life begin to return, bits of Alessa even bleeding through when she confronts Claudia.
Oh, Alessa, the world you wanted is nearly here.
That's not what I want.
Not you. Alessa, your true self.
But I am Alessa. My little Claudia, my dear sweet sister.
Almost everyone around her wants her to be someone specific, usually in a way that acts to their benefit. Members of the cult and Voltiel value her only as the Mother of God, while Vincent sees her as a convenient tool for maintaining his comfortable life in the face of the return of God, and Claudia sees her only as a vessel or Alessa, completely disregarding who Heather actually is and insisting on her being who she once was. Conversely, Douglas seems to view her as something of a second chance at being a proper father by protecting her, but that's more benign and acceptable because their relationship kind of has surrogate family vibes in a way. I don't know. Even Harry struggled with accepting her at first, admitting in his journal that he once felt like she was the same as Alessa, just another form of the girl who took his original daughter away. I think this is honestly understandable given everything he went through, and he does end up truly loving her in the end, but the issues were still there at the start. But I think Heather's issues with identity truly are best exemplified by her fear of mirrors and how the other world manifests for her. When you check the mirror at the start of the game, she says, "I don't like mirrors. It's almost like there's an unknown world right on the other side, and the person staring at me isn't really me, just an imitator." You could easily read this as partially stemming from self-image issues, and I wouldn't disagree. I suffer from dysphoria and hate seeing any image of myself, whether it be a reflection or a picture. It's one of the reasons I'll never show my face on this channel. But I think it more so comes down to her issues of identity, and this is something the other world fully capitalizes on. These games often incorporate aspects of liminal horror, but 3 is the game that really leans into it. Heather explores areas that, given her age, should be safe and familiar. A mall, an amusement park, places that are made uncannily horrible by the sudden lack of people and the awareness of how big and empty they are without crowds. But it goes beyond that, as it also incorporates aspects of Alessa's otherworld and memories as well, taunting Heather with a past she can't remember at first, but feels an uncomfortable familiarity with, which only serves to torment her further. But this is taken to the extreme in the infamous mirror room, where Heather is forced to watch her reflection grow tainted and mutated and eventually stop following her movements entirely, acting as a symbolic confirmation of her worst fears. And it's taken one step further in the Memory of Alessa fight, where this tainted reflection steps forth to actually kill her. Side note, I personally find this to be a validation of my read of the town / otherworld as a malicious entity, so rest assured I was feeling very smug during this boss fight. But Heather still overcomes all of this and reasserts her sense of self. She defeats Alessa and even denies her idea of a merciful death. She rejects her role as the Mother of God and even chooses to call herself Cheryl in the end. She's found herself, and while it's informed by her past, she's shaped it herself. But the most prevalent, if not the most important theme in this game is that of objectification, because every character Heather encounters is guilty of this to some extent, and it bleeds into each of their personal issues as well. Claudia is the most obvious in this regard. as she seemingly sees Heather as nothing more than a vessel for the birth of God. I find Claudia quite interesting because she's a fascinating case study in how parental and religious abuse can absolutely destroy a person. Claudia's childhood was characterized by her abuse at her father's hands, having had the idea that the world is nothing but a pit of misery and sin beaten into her by a maniac that couldn't see any good in humanity and made damn sure she wouldn't be able to either.
You hated your father, didn't you? I saw the way he hit you, kicked you, and made you cry. The memory of his cruelty is forever burned into my mind.
Yes, and that's why we need God.
The only joy she seemed to have was in her relationship to Alessa, and she's so not fucking handling that grief that there are 2 shrines to Alessa's suffering in the church, and she still has the 1 birthday card from the girl. Claudia's view of humanity is entirely coloured by her abuse and the abuse that Alessa suffered, which is also where her martyr complex comes from. Despite her religious convictions, Claudia knows her crimes are unforgivable. She knows that killing Harry and putting Heather through hell means she's beyond salvation herself, but she still does it out of the same twisted sense of love that you see in real-life religious fundamentalists. Claudia is a special kind of monster because she can and will do anything to pursue her goal to resurrect God, including ignoring the words of the woman she's supposedly doing it in the name of. And to that end, Heather is nothing more than a vessel to her, a sacrificial lamb to bring about the resurrection of God and avenge Alessa's suffering. She doesn't even see Heather as a real person, but as a false shell around her true self. And so none of Heather's pain means anything to her, because in the end, Claudia only sees her as a womb. Despite all of this though, she does at least believe in her cause enough to sacrifice her own life in the end, which is more than I can say for fucking Vincent. I won't mince words, I fucking hate this man. Just like Claudia, his goal is to use Heather to further his own ends, but unlike Claudia, he doesn't have the decency to be upfront about it. And he's also the far more realistic character of the two, which for me makes him so much fucking worse. Because at the end of the day, he's just a greedy bastard who gets off on tormenting other people, and there is no fucking shortage of men like him in the world. Vincent was revealed to be embezzling funds from the cult to give himself a comfortable life, so he has a vested interest in disrupting Claudia's plans so he could maintain the luxury he's accustomed to. He approaches Heather under the guise of being an ally, but he's clearly only hoping to use her for his ends, which is why he has no qualms about putting her in danger or just outright tormenting her when presented with the opportunity. Vincent clearly enjoys manipulating people, which can be seen in the way he talks to Heather when they first meet and how he even pokes at Claudia's parental trauma. Because the asshole just gets his jollies by hurting other people when he can. It's right there in how he talks to Heather in the library. I mean, listen to this shit.
You come here and enjoy spilling their blood and listening to them cry out. You feel excited when you step on them and snuff out their lives.
Are you talking about the monsters?
Monsters? They looked like monsters to you?
This is the moment that truly solidified my hatred of this man, because the excitement and manic glee at the prospect of causing Heather mental anguish is clear as fucking day. He sounds like he's on the verge of fucking orgasm as he builds up to, "They look like monsters to you?" And even when he delivers the line, he's barely able to contain his perverse glee. I know this sparks a debate for some people over whether or not the monsters were actually people Heather was hallucinating as otherwise, but I honestly don't know how they managed to get that impression from a man who's clearly just taking a sadistic pleasure in hurting a girl who's already having the worst day of her life. Whether it's as a tool to take down Claudia or a toy for his amusement, Vincent is nothing more than a bastard seeking to use Heather for his own sick ends. But I think the most disturbing example of objectification has to be Stanley, the man leaving letters for Heather in the hospital, who is absolutely fucking mental. Reading through his letters, it's very clear that he doesn't see Heather as a person at all. He sees her as a literal object of affection, just a vessel upon which to project his obsessions. It's right there in the first letter. He didn't know her at all before she entered the hospital, but upon seeing her, he just decided that he loved her, which means that she must love him back, because that's just how it works apparently. Stanley's letters are honestly quite chilling because they're the product of an incredibly deranged mind that has simply assigned a role and purpose to a random girl he's arbitrarily taken an interest in, and her own feelings on the subject are entirely unimportant. And even more than that, They're a realistic portrayal of the way some men think about women. They see them as objects owed to them by the mere fact of their existence. It's a distillation of the philosophy of incels and men like Andrew Tate, who think that women exist only to be owned and used, and to be denied that ownership is a failure of the woman as well as a personal insult against the man. It's right there in the text. If a thing has no meaning, there's no reason for it to exist, just as you exist for me. This is fucking terrifying, and by far the most disturbing thing in the game for how real it is. There are plenty of horror games that have stalker-type enemies, including this very series, but nothing can compare to the one human man who stalks Heather through the halls of the hospital, watching her and plotting unseen and leaving letters for her to find, all accompanied by his prized doll that sends one simple message. This is what you are now. This is what I want you to be. Objectification is such a prevalent theme in this game that even Douglas is guilty of it. The most obvious is at the start when he sees and treats her as little more than a means to a paycheck, but the far subtler and more tragic moment comes in the amusement park.
What are you doing?
Maybe killing you here is the only way to end this nightmare.
Yeah, you might be right.
The reason this moment hurts so much is that, though unintentional, Douglas is doing the exact same thing as Claudia here. He's reducing Heather to her role as a vessel. For just a moment, he sees her as nothing more than the womb from which God will spring, and there's nothing that could hurt her more right now. And I think all of this is why Heather's story feels so powerful, because she does overcome it. She stands firm in her identity. She defies those who seek to use her and throws off the shackles of her own past. And she takes back her life, her freedom, and her bodily autonomy by aborting the creature forcibly placed inside her with the Aglaophados. Through her own strength and a gift from the only adult who truly and purely loved her for her, she overcame it all, and her life is finally hers to live. God, there's honestly just so much more I could say about this game, but I understand when the video is getting too long. Which is a shame because I really want to talk about this game more. You have no idea how much I cut out to make this video a reasonable length. I ended up liking this game way more than I thought I would, and I was honestly a little sad when I came to the end, because I'd built a nightly routine around playing it. I'd make popcorn, hit record, and then play an hour or so as I spent time with Heather, discovering who she was right alongside her and marveling at the amazing depths the game had to offer. When I finished my playthrough of 2, I was satisfied with the ending, but I honestly might go back and play through again, just to spend a little more time with one of my new favourite characters. I'm not surprised people derided this game as shallower than its predecessor, because history has shown that to be the knee-jerk reaction whenever a game stars a woman and explores feminine topics, and the dumber male gamers for some reason have it in their mind that you can't relate to women at all. And I mean, I haven't been a girl for quite some fucking time now, but I can safely say my lack of a shared gender didn't get in the way of me relating to Heather or her struggles in the least. Honestly, I think that if you need to share a gender with a character to even begin to relate to them, then you're the one with the problem, mate. Silent Hill 3 is well worth your time, and if you played it when you were younger and didn't think it was that deep, I wholeheartedly recommend another playthrough because it really is. Honestly, my biggest problem with all of this is that I think I technically qualify as a Silent Hill fan now. And that means I've got over a decade of disappointing games to look forward to. Though at least I'll be speedrunning that particular experience since I'm getting into the series rather late. Either way, I have enjoyed my time with it so far, and I'm looking forward to the next game. As much as I reasonably can, at least. Thank you for watching, and a huge thanks to my patrons for their support. Especially Anu, Felby, Owen Oofs, Tetrophobe49, and Wisteria. Thank you for helping me keep the lights on as I work on this video. It took me way longer than it should have. Oh man, this was honestly a really good time for me. The whole game, I mean. Gonna be honest, I'm not looking forward to Silent Hill 4 so much as I am curious as to how bad it is because I've heard some things. But I won't be getting to that for just a little while because I do plan on trying out a different game before then. I hope you'll forgive my enunciation in this video. I just had some dental work done and it is fucking with my ear so much. Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you again for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.